Welcome back to Braden's RC channel, guys. Today I'm going to be going over building a cable to connect to the Hota D6 Pro charger, and I'm going to make it so it plugs in to the power supply of this Servo Testor. And basically what I'm using is just a servo extension cable, and I grabbed a pretty long one. I've got a bunch of different lengths, but figured a long one might come in handy. But as you can see, we don't need this. This is actually the male end. It's a female socket, but there's male pins inside. So this would be the female, and this is called a JR connector. There's also a Futaba connector that has a tab on here, and I don't know if you can see them on here, but there's little tabs on this side of the slot for the Futaba connectors. But these don't have the tab. It's just a straight side. And the thing about this, when you're plugging stuff in here, if you look right here, I guess we'll turn it this way so you can see, this says S plus negative in this white box right here. And that's looking at the connector this way. So if you rotate this around and look this way, the top pin is going to be your signal, which on these yellow, red, and brown, or orange, red, and brown, however you want to look at it, the yellow one is always the signal. And the other colors, sometimes you'll even see these where they're all black. The signal wire will have a white dashed line on it sometimes to designate the signal wire. And the red is the positive, and the brown is the negative, or it'd be red for positive and black for negative on the red, white, and black. So just make sure you're plugging this in the correct way. And for this, since this is just going to be a power connector, we don't even need this yellow wire. So I'm just going to strip this out. We'll just get rid of this, because all we're doing is sending power to this Servo Testor. The signal is useless on this. So take my handy dandy pliers here and cut these off. And we're going to cut this guy out. In fact, I'm just going to yank the pin out. And these Bi-Script brand wire strippers are pretty nice. Some of the best wire strippers I've ever used. Don't mind my Alzheimer's, or whatever you want to call it. My Parkinson's, I guess. And the Hota charger takes an XT60, so I need to go from XT60 to the JR connector. So on this end, we're going to solder this on here. And if you look at your charger, it tells you the pointed side is negative, the positive side is the square side of the plug. So this would be the positive side. This is the negative side. So get my trusty blue tack here. This is the best helping hands I've found yet. And what we're going to do first, I'm not the best solderer, but these wires are pretty simple. Remember, the positive goes on this rectangle side, so this top one here will be the positive. It's going to take a bit for my soldering iron to heat up. And what I'm going to do in this video is I'm going to build this cable, and I'm going to show you how to use this charger, which has the one thing cool about the Hota is you select your task, and you go down here where, well, it's right there at the top, power supply. And this is an 8.4 volt capable servo, but this only goes up to 6 volts. So right there it says 4.8 to 6 volts. So we're not going to send any more than 6 volts to it. And a ESC, the built-in BEC on an ESC typically puts out about anywhere from 3 to 6 or maybe even 8 amps for the bigger ESCs. So we're going to set this output voltage. We're going to set this to 6 volts, which is the maximum our servo tester can take. And then on our current setting, I'm just going to put this up to 5 amps because this little servo, and it's not even going to be under a load, so it's not going to need that many amps. The more load it's under, the more amperage you're going to need. But 5 amps is plenty for even if it was under load. So, see if this is heated up yet. So you want to pre-tin your tip. And now we're going to pre-tin our connector. And tinning just means putting a little solder on there and getting it to stick. There we go. You see it filled the cup up with a little solder there. Don't know if it's focusing on that because my phone is up above me. You want to watch putting too much heat on these because you'll end up melting the connector. Okay, so we got the negative side up. So let me redo this and tin my wires real quick. And you want to twist these so they're nice and tight. I probably didn't twist them very good, but and basically you just want to see that you got solder that's soaked into the wires. Okay. Back to our connector. Negative side up. So remember that's the brown. And I want to put a little bit of heat shrink on here first. I need to pull these back apart a little bit. You don't want to get your heat shrink too close to where you're soldering. It'll shrink up on you. I'm just going to slide this up over the connector. Wait. See, I done messed up. I forgot. These connectors have a cover. They don't even technically need the heat shrink, but I like to use it anyway. It doesn't matter which way this goes. I always forget to do this stuff. Okay. Negative sides up. Just like that. Stay. So now I'm going to pull these through a little bit. I'm just sliding them up over the connector. And my soldering station has a rework station, so, or reflow, whatever you want to call this. So it puts out heat here like a really, really hot hair dryer. And it's great for doing heat shrink tubing. Oh, not my charger. All right. That's all snapped on there. And these probably won't shrink up to the wire because they're pretty good size heat shrink, but it'll do what it needs to do. All right. So now, as you can see, I plug this in here to channel 1. This is channel 1. I'm set on channel 1. So if I plug this in here, and remember the signal wire on this is on top. So, and it's missing here. So we want to make sure that missing socket there goes on the top. And the 4 bottom ones are your output. These would go to 4 different servos. But the top one, the first one here on this side is where you want to plug this in on this particular servo tester. All right. So now, if I scroll down, we'll scroll down to Start Task. You should see the servo tester power up. Okay, so this is a, it's basically going to swing your servo back and forth. It's adjusting your, what is that called, the frequency or whatever, the pulse width. It's changing it back and forth, so your servo is going to rotate. And this locks it in there, and if I press it one more time, it's going to center the servo at 1500. And why do they never twist these the same direction? Okay. Remember, this is a white, red, and black. So the white's always signal. Your red and black's positive and negative. And since the signal is up, we want this to be facing up. And I'm going to put it on the first channel here. So now, that's what that does. And that's going to take me to, this is going to take me to wherever I turn it. All right, but I want it centered. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to center this to put this in the car first before I put this on. I'm going to take this off. I'm going to mount it in the car, and I might even go back and redo this once I have it in the car just to make sure I didn't rotate that gear. So when you put the servo horn on, you want your wheels on your RC car to be straight, and then you attach the servo horn to the linkage. And then the very last thing you do is you bolt it onto the servo, trying to keep your wheels straight, because you can rotate this and get on a different tooth and it'll turn your wheel. So you want to try to make sure your wheels are as straight as possible and mount your horn. And then if you need any other adjustment from that point, it should just be a little bit of trim in your radio settings to get the truck to travel straight. So, but anyway, that's how you set up your Hota charger to use as a power supply, and that's how you make a cable to use the charger to power your servo tester. Kind of a handy little feature. A lot of chargers don't have that. I've seen a couple that are starting to add the power supply feature to the chargers, but I've only seen a couple other than the Hota that does this, and by far this is probably the best bang for the buck charger out there. It's around 100 to 120 bucks, depending on where you buy it, and it's got a bunch of power. If you run it on DC, it's got 650 watts. That's 325 by 2. But it's great for anybody entering the hobby. This is probably going to last you a very long time unless you get into racing and you need to charge a lot of packs pretty quickly. But as far as just general bashers and people that just play around at home, this is the best charger you can get. Anyway, thanks for watching.